My name is Neha and my group members are Dylan, Alex, Emily H, and Emily R. We are one of the campus food bank groups, group number 3, which was costing out food hampers. The Campus Food Bank is an organization that provides hampers for the university alumni, students, and staff. Additionally, they provide information on where these students, staff, and alumni can get these items across the city at the lowest possible price.
Hi, my name is Alex, and I'm going to be discussing how does the organization impact the community it serves and what was our project. So the organization helps prevent some food insecurity in the community, and it provides meals to those who cannot afford them, providing a bit of financial relief to those in the community so they can redirect their finances for things that cannot wait. For example, rent, tuition, and bus fare. That's really great because it helps people in your community. People that could have possibly been using this, and it helps them if they're struggling. So our project with helping the food bank is we would go from store to store. Each of us had 2 stores. So we would go from store to store, and in a total of 10 stores, we would find different products that would be donated to the food bank and see the different prices for them. And then in the end, we compare the prices between all of them and finally see what is the most cost-efficient way to donate.
Regarding the process of working on the project, our group was tasked with costing out the various items on the campus food bank's food hamper item list. The items are listed here. We obtained the itemized list from our CSL community partner supervisor with the food bank, and we each picked a grocery store to determine the prices at, for 5 stores in total, and then went to the grocery stores to determine the lowest price options, as well as a mid-range price option for each of the food items and averaged the two. We then create Excel spreadsheets as well as infographics to present the data we found. We repeated this process a second time for a total of 10 stores in order to obtain more hours as well as provide more resources for the food bank. Our group went to store locations spread out across the Edmonton area and determined that prices are the same across different franchise locations throughout the city. Looking for prices of food items at the store was different due to COVID-19 in comparison to before the virus, with a limited amount of people allowed in the store, as well as various directions needing to be followed in order to comply with social distancing to help prevent the spread.
So here I have on display the price comparison for a Sobeys in Hall Canyon, but I will be discussing the issues and problems that the project intended to address. The issues that our project intended to address was that food insecurity is a huge problem on our campus, and adding convenience gets us one step closer to leveling out the food insecurity in our community. The project addresses the problem of the individuals seeking the campus food bank can only get the hamper once every 14 days, and it's only said to feed you for 4 days. These individuals need to know where they can get the cheapest food that will sustain and nourish them for the other days of the week. The project determined prices at grocery stores commonly visited by students so they don't have to go around from grocery store to attempt to find the cheapest items around the city. Adding convenience to their lives, as many members of this community are students, parents, full-time employees, or volunteers who need these resources to get food on the table.
So the outputs that my group produced while working with the food bank was infographics and spreadsheets. So everybody did 2 stores in the end, and we made an infographic and compared pricing for each of them. So this is our big group infographic of the first store that we each did. So there's 5 stores for each, one for each of us. So we did Walmart, Safeway, Superstore, No Frills, and TNT. I mean, you can see down here in this map, this is where each store is, and it's color-coded if you want to look closely. So we're kind of really spread out over the city, which was nice. We got like a wide sense of the pricing in the city, even if stores have pretty standard, chain stores have pretty standardized pricing. But yeah, we compared for each item here. We compared prices for each of the stores, and we even put which one was the most expensive to the least expensive up top. These are my individual infographics for price comparing at Walmart and H Mart's. Just on the next page, I'll show you. The graphics are very similar. So these are the items that the food bank suggested that we do, because these are the ones that they typically include in their hampers that they give out. I've separated them into 4 food groups, and yes, ready meals is now its own food group apparently. So yeah, there's the low price here. So this was the lowest price I could find in the store, and then a higher price, not the highest price, just a price that's more expensive. Typically the next one up, and then the average price. So this is the numbers that people at the food bank and people looking at this resource through the food bank can use to see how expensive one store is compared to another. And it's the same idea here with H Mart. So I'm not typically the one that goes to the grocery store in my household, but this experience let me see how expensive food really is, and I absolutely understand more so now why there's a need for food banks. When comparing grocery stores, seeing specialty stores, definitely more expensive, like H Mart is a Korean market, so that's what we would consider more of a specialty store in this case. And I definitely, even just looking at non-specialty stores and more average price grocery stores, some of the stores can be a lot more expensive than others. So typically you just go to the one that's in your neighborhood, but it's kind of difficult to kind of tell if that one's more expensive than, say, another one. But I think this all really ties into and reinforces the concept of food as a right, which we discussed in AREC 173 this semester. Food as a right being that everybody has nutritious, culturally appropriate, and reliable food to eat. And the stores my group went to definitely checked off these boxes, as we did go to specialty stores like H Mart, which is a Korean market, and TNT is a Chinese market. So those are ones more directed at a specific culture that would be commonly accessed by U of A students. And we also looked at nutritious foods that the food bank would include in their hampers. And I think my biggest realization is that food banks are super crucial in supporting the idea of food as a right and ensuring that everybody gets food that works for them in their culture, no matter their circumstance. So yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway.
The price comparison for the food bank hamper items. These prices were gathered from a No Frills on the north side of Edmonton in McConaughey. I have listed here the cheapest option, the middle range option, and the item here in the middle. Each category also has the brand name and the price that it was on for. But for this project, I've learned a few new pieces of information. One of which being that the cheapest grocery store for non-perishables in Edmonton is No Frills. And I also found out that TNT is a little bit more expensive than I anticipated. But a new skill that I learned was working with video editing and creating infographics that are appealing, which can be quite difficult. A concept that I would like to touch on is food systems and how I never thought to consider food banks a part of a food system, rather just as a social program or a social system. Food banks fall directly into food systems, though, as they are an infrastructure for distribution of food to our community. The campus food bank helps level out this trend of food insecurity while additionally focusing on human dignity and justice, as they just ask for, as they don't ask for proof of lack of funds or inability to pay for groceries, instead just that you're a part of the University of Alberta's community. I guess my biggest take from this CSL project is that food banks play a huge role in food systems and in a community, one of which I'm a part of. But my privilege has never made me realize how effective and important food banks are, especially for students.
So here are the two infographics for the stores that I collected prices from, Superstore as well as Save on Foods, and the infographics are very similar. Here on the left, I have the food items listed that the campus food bank provides in their food hampers, and then on the right, I have the average prices at the stores for each of these food items. Each average is an average of the cheapest option at the store and a mid-range price. And the locations I went to were in Sherwood Park. However, the prices across the Edmonton area at different locations are all the same. And from this project, I learned through costing out to these food items that, depending on brands and types of food one purchases, grocery shopping can become quite expensive, and thus it is crucial that individuals have the necessary information to find larger varieties of food options in accordance with their income level. This can apply to the concept of Bennett's Law discussed in AREC 173, which states that as income rises, there
tends to be higher amounts of expenditure on healthy protein and vitamin-rich foods. This is due to these types of foods tending to cost more at stores in comparison to less healthy foods containing high amounts of starch. Working with the campus food bank to provide this data to individuals will aid in informing people of where they can purchase food items encompassing a healthy, balanced diet at stores that are convenient for them to access.
Hey, so I'm back, Alex here. And I have my two infographics. I did TNT and Italian Center. For TNT, you get to see some absolutely absurd prices. Like the cheapest 1 kilogram rice is $7.27. And compared to all the other stores, like that's very high. I guess buying in bulk is what TNT normally does. So the prices might be lower if you bought like 4 kilograms, but that's still super high. And then for the Italian Center, a lot lower, like $2.98 for this type of price, except it is 100 grams less. But overall, very different pricing. You also get to see like a bunch of things that they don't sell. Like the Italian Center doesn't sell cereal boxes, instant noodles, Kraft Dinner, or granola bars, and TNT, they don't sell granola bars, juice boxes, or cereal boxes. So big differences there. And then what did I learn? I learned that there's a lot going on behind the food bank. Like, sure, you go to it and you get your food and you go home, but that's not like the real inner workings of the food bank. If that were it, then there wouldn't have been 3 groups helping the food bank in various ways. The cost of different foods definitely have an impact on what will get donated to the food bank. And then from there, if all the costs are high and no one is donating, then people who are really struggling financially end up with more of a burden on their hands. That really just connects with the concept in AREC that food is a fundamental right. And the state of the economy can really make it more difficult for people to have access to food. But thanks to programs such as the food bank, they're still able to access food. I also learned that price checking is a really useful tool to finding the best deals. It's pretty cool.
So these are my infographics. I looked at and compared the prices of the stores Safeway and Co-op. Safeway being a more standard store that students go to, and Co-op being a more specialized, specific store that students go to. This is the Safeway infographic. And this is the Co-op one. I looked at the cheapest prices of each item and then compared them with a more mid-range price. Doing this showed me the necessity that many people have to really count the prices of their food to the last penny, that even something that costs $1 less than something else can make a huge difference to an individual who is facing food insecurity. I got to go deeper into the price differences between healthier food options versus unhealthier options. For example, rice, both a filling and somewhat nutritious food compared to the rest at least, such as instant noodles, was very expensive, the mid-range price being $9 at Safeway and $9.49 at Co-op. It made me understand the decisions that people facing food insecurity have to deal with when grocery shopping, having to opt for cheaper, unhealthier items with longer shelf lives, such as instant noodles and canned foods, and even having to opt for the cheaper items in those categories themselves, such as opting for instant noodles that cost 49 cents rather than being able to buy some that cost for $1.29 at Safeway, for example, and having to do this in order to be able to pay for rent, utilities, and other necessary things. This project shown me the critical role that food banks play when it comes to combating food insecurity.